Mm. Well, hello everybody. It's Jeremy, the existential wine guy, and I come at you almost every Wine Wednesday to, well, more or less talk about the experience of being alive through wine. We have been doing a series, and we're going to complete it today, of the original Star Wars trilogy and pairing wines with Star Wars and finding out which ones maybe best represent each Star Wars movie, as well as talking about some of the more, mythological themes with the movies. So we're going to complete that now. A little bit about me, if you don't know already. My name is Jeremy Marin. I go by the Existential Wine Guy. I am a wine industry veteran that is consulting with tasting rooms to create better customer experiences, as well as doing private tastings for tasting rooms for corporations, businesses, companies, what have you, as well as private individuals as well. So I'm available for hire, just letting you know. We have been having an amazing time the last couple of weeks talking about the Star Wars movies and what wines have gone with them. We started off obviously with The New Hope. The reason I did that was because as I'm comparing a lot of these films with the archetype hero's journey that is the Odyssey. The Odyssey always started in the middle. A lot of people don't realize it. It starts kind of in the middle of the story, and then we were told through flashbacks and how things came to be. So we started with Star Wars: A New Hope. Talked about the themes of like refusal of the call and also the call to adventure. Then we went into obviously Empire Strikes Back, and we talked a little bit more about maybe the belly of the whale and sort of a spiritual and psychological rebirth that happens in there to kind of straighten our heroes out. And we're also going to, as we go into Return of the Jedi, there's a lot of different things I would love to touch on, but we don't have a lot of time. We try to keep these to about 20 minutes or so. So we're going to do, we're trying to get through two today. The power of the metal bikini, and I think there was a lot of controversy about that. And we're also going to talk about the redemption from the fall from grace. That really is the story of Anakin Skywalker, and we realize that oddly, the heroes in our story were really not the main characters at all. That really everything centered around Anakin Skywalker. Then we'll see that in the next couple movies. We're going to hit those movies in a couple of weeks. We're going to take a little break from that, but we'll be excited to talk about it, and I hope that you'll be excited to jump in as well. Right now, I want to thank a couple of people who were there. Russ, my brother, thank you. Charlene, thank you. And somebody on Instagram, and I don't know their real name. So Adriana LXOX, she joined. So hey, thank you so much. Let's get right into it. I think that, when I first saw the movie, I was 11 years old. We're talking about, or maybe this was about 13 years old. And this was, Princess Leia at that time was literally almost a sidekick. She hadn't really come to her own at that point. She wasn't really, she had a little bit of her own story, but it wasn't quite there. And all of that changes when we hit to Return of the Jedi. Also, there was a lot of controversy about the slave garment that Jabba the Hutt put her in. And being a 13-year-old kid, right over the head, I didn't even get it. There were a lot of people that were saying that it was a subjugation of women in film, a horrible attempt to try to sexualize Princess Leia. And then there was sort of the opposite reply that kind of came a little bit later, really. They're more of a dare I say, feminist point of view, saying that actually that was it was a moment of empowerment with Princess Leia and the metal bikini, we'll just call it that. As we get into it, and then the more that I think about it, in being a guy, it's always hard to wade into those waters. However, I do kind of fall into the camp of that it was a moment of empowerment, and mostly because there was a plan all along. As I should also say that when I talk about these films, I'm really assuming that people have seen them. That we've all seen Star Wars, we've seen all the movies, and so I'm just gonna spoiler alert. where is a task or a plan to save Han Solo from his friends, and they go at it. And what I always thought was really interesting, and what I never understood right away, why Luke Skywalker never had his lightsaber on when he went in to go meet Jabba. That's because it was all part of the plan. They knew that this wasn't going to happen. They knew that Jabba the Hutt was not going to release Han, and instead they tried to kidnap him. And at some point they also knew that they would get caught, and they had a plan in place for that. And interestingly enough, everything did go to plan. And while Princess Leia was captured by Jabba the Hutt, was made a slave by him, as things progressed, that really wasn't the plan at all, right? Princess Leia and the team, Princess Leia was actually assigned, if we think about it, to assassinate Jabba the Hutt. So in Bikini and all, she takes the biggest gangster in the galaxy out more or less without a hitch. I always thought that was really interesting. First of all, when you think about it, the sacrifice that Leia is making to begin with to get Han back, to be subjugated, to be put in a position of extreme peril by Jabba the Hutt, hoping that their plan would, come to fruition and that they would be able to rescue her. Or rescue him, I should say. So when I think about Princess Leia in that sort of metal bikini, at one point I almost think of it as a uniform, that there is this moment where she takes over. Although she was forced to wear this outfit, she literally owns it and takes down her oppressor. It's really kind of a fantastic idea when you think about it, and also a really mature theme, considering, Star Wars in a way has always had a very kid audience. I would love to know your thoughts on this as well. So feel free to ask any questions, make any comments. Would love to know how you interpret this as well, because there has been a lot of controversy about that particular garment and what it means. Carrie Fisher's had all sorts of interesting comments throughout the years about it. At some point she wasn't in favor, then she was, and then sort of at the same time telling Rey not to get into the metal bikini. We'll see what happens with that down the road. But anyway, while I'm waiting for your comments, again, if you're just joining me, I am Jeremy, the Existential Wine Guy. I am talking about Return of the Jedi and some of the mythological sort of themes that go with it. Also, if you hadn't figured out, I'm drinking wine. And I'm going to reveal what wine I think goes best with Return of the Jedi. You can see it's a red wine, but I'd love to hear any guesses that you might have. So put them in there, and we'll see if you're right. We're going to get to that towards the end. So one of the other major themes that I found that I think we have time to talk about today is well, we really get to meet Darth Vader, don't we? Or more precisely, we get to meet Anakin Skywalker. At the end of Empire Strikes Back, and we talked about this last week, everybody loses. However, we are saddled with some very real thoughts and some hard truths, specifically that that Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker, that he is the father of Luke and Leia. It's hinted at Leia at the end of Empire Strikes Back. It never really comes out, and they just kind of blurt it out, like, in Return of the Jedi. And then we start to see we get a glimpse really into the greater story, and we also have a moment that we realize that Star Wars, at least the original trilogy, episodes 4 through 6, are not really about our heroes. We understand that they were characters that they're supporting characters that come in really to start to flesh out the story of Anakin Skywalker and his fall from grace into evil. And one thing I'd always, as I was reading up about, for this broadcast, and doing a little bit of my own research that, to support some of the ideas that I have, is the idea of who Darth Vader really is. Darth Vader is a soulless machine. He is a metaphor for what happens when we are caught in a mechanical state, when we are living a life that is not true to who we are, when we let society or live a version of life that society has placed on us, and in this case, it is a soulless society. This is what happens, and when we meet Anakin or Darth Vader at this point, he is less human than he is machine. He is soulless. He is the example of what happens when we run afoul of running or living our bliss. So we'll have some thoughts on that in just a second, but the story of this trilogy comes to fruition at the end of Return of the Jedi, when we bring Anakin back. If there is that one moment of redemption, and it's kind of interesting because we don't really understand the full effect at that point of who Darth Vader is, how evil he really was. I mean, we saw it throughout the couple of films, but he was a bad guy. But it really isn't until we get to the prequels and we actually see Anakin's fall from grace and everything he does literally to become Darth Vader. So if you're just joining me, again, I'm Jeremy, the Existential Wine Guy. We are talking about Star Wars. We are talking about what wine best represents the return of the Jedi. We're talking about the themes of also Princess Leia as well as Darth Vader, who I think are the more important characters in this particular story. And it's interesting because as a kid, you know, as I was first watching the films, I was certainly always identifying with Luke Skywalker. As I get a little older, and we start watching the prequels, we start to understand Anakin a little bit more, and we find how horrible he was as a human, and his serious evil fall from grace. And there are moments that his son is the one who brings him back. Yes, it's just before his death, and yes, it doesn't absolve him of the crime that he committed, but certainly he brings him back for that small little moment of redemption that I think is one of those great examples that a film has for us that shows that is possible. We get to see it for just a couple of moments on the screen, but we understand the importance of that type of redemption. Not necessarily, again, forgiving all the things that happened in the past, but bringing him back, literally saving his soul. All right, so do we have any guesses on what I am drinking today? One of the things I always loved about Return of the Jedi is how well it wrapped up that trilogy. It was just solid all the way around. You felt satisfied that, how things ended. I will say that the original one, the little Ewok song at the end, went way too long. But I was aside from the Ewoks, it's really kind of this fantastic film, and it really puts forth a couple of the ideas and myths, or I should say the ideas from myths that we earnestly and almost immediately identify as truth. And that's one of the things that I've always loved about film, is that film can be a metaphor for so many other things, and the great directors of film understand how to put those moments of truth in film, things that we identify right away, things that we know is true. It's why I've always liked film, and it's again one of the reasons that I love things like Star Wars. I will say that the great directors understand that, that there's how to put those moments of truth in film, and the really great directors make films that are true all the way. There are very few of those guys out there. So I also wanted to ask you if I do have a poll on here, and to see if you like sort of the subject matter that we're talking about, and also what was your favorite film of the original trilogy. So we're talking about Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. So my buddy Ray has just guessed Cabernet Sauvignon. I should say Russ. Russ just guessed it was Cabernet Sauvignon, and Russ, well done. Yeah, absolutely, it's Cabernet Sauvignon. One of the things about a really great Cabernet Sauvignon is as you're drinking it, you just have that moment, that feeling that you've arrived. When it's a really nice Cabernet Sauvignon, just all things become a little bit better. Everything else becomes a little bit more grounded. You sort of see the world and the universe in a really sort of pleasant and in a way that is that we can understand the universe. We can not necessarily compartmentalize it, but certainly understand what it's all about. Yes, I am drinking Cabernet Sauvignon, and I do have the bottle here. It is from Simi from Alexander Valley. For those of you who are not familiar with Alexander Valley in the Sonoma County, you're missing out. It's an absolutely fantastic growing area. You have extraordinary wineries in that area. And I will say that for me personally, Alexander Valley is the place that I fell in love with Cabernet Franc, of all things. It grows incredibly well in that region. What they're doing with it in that region, the Cabernet Franc traditionally has always been blending grape, something you add a little bit to Cabernet Sauvignon. It's also the father of Cabernet Sauvignon, with the mother being Sauvignon Blanc. So those two vines together are actually what has produced Cabernet Sauvignon. So again, Ross, incredibly well done. There should be a prize somewhere, and I'll think about that next time. All right, so we're getting close to the end here. Again, if you have any questions about wine, and I'm just checking the Instagram feeds and also the Facebook feeds, or if you have any other questions or comments about the thoughts that I put out about how Return of the Jedi really is all about the redeeming or bringing back Anakin Skywalker from Darth Vader. Also, any thoughts you have on the metal bikini, pro, con, I would love to hear that as well. I think it's a worthy argument. As we're getting to, I'm right here at the end of it right now. So we figured out that for Return of the Jedi, we are drinking Cabernet Sauvignon, and I think it's an absolutely wonderful varietal to drink as you're watching Star Wars. We've also talked about the idea all the way across the board, all the Star Wars movies, how they were, how they take archetypal mythological themes and put them in a new context, in a context that's easily available and identifiable to the younger generations. I'm really excited to see that we're going to see some new Star Wars films as well as TV series, and that the Star Wars universe is going to expand. So we'll be talking a lot about that going forward. Again, in a couple weeks, I'm going to revisit this whole idea, and we're going to go back to the prequel trilogy. We're going to talk about the Phantom Menace, the Clone Wars, and Revenge of the Sith. But also, we're going to delve a little bit, if we have some time, into the Clone Wars and Rebels. If you haven't checked those out, they're absolutely phenomenal pieces of the canon that is Star Wars, that is the Star Wars universe. All right, so again, I want to thank you so much for joining me. My name is Jeremy Marin. I am the Existential Wine Guy, and I am talking about wine, or more importantly, I am talking about the experience of being alive through wine. I want to thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch you next week. Cheers.